Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And now we shall begin with the first session of the day on decarbonizing Malaysia, sectoral pathways to net zero. May I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Supun Nigamuni, Managing Director, Control Union Malaysia, to chair this session. Mr. Supun, please. May I also invite the panelists for this segment to be on stage. Ms. Maureen Joseph, Chief Sustainability Officer, UOB Malaysia. Mr. Vardhan Sharma, Head of Public Government Business for Asia Pacific Signify. Mr. Francois Bilno, Assistant General Manager, Reforestation, Samling Timber Malaysia. Ms. Leo Pui Yong, Chief Sustainability Officer, Tenaga Nasional Berhad. Encik Muhammad Omar Hatim bin Haris, Deputy Director, Corporate Development, Malaysia Forest Fund, representing Puan Suhaini binti Harun, Senior Director, Corporate Development, Sustainable Finance and Strategy. Please take a seat. And Mr. Supun, the stage is all yours.
Just running live. Yeah, thanks. Thank you everyone for coming back. And the morning session was actually quite interesting, eventful, I would say. Yeah. And so we will ensure that we actually keep the momentum going. And no better way to actually start our 4 panels than the topic of decarbonization. I think Renard and also Dato Yahati basically eased the burden that's actually on me to basically explain and introduce why we are talking about decarbonization today. Is climate change a myth? Is climate change a myth? I say yes, I say no. Is climate change a myth? Climate change is not a myth. So we are feeling it every day. When it rains cats and dogs. Maybe the rainfall, the millimeters are the same, but when it rains, it actually rains cats and dogs. We see flash floods, we see a lot of things actually happening, and this is actually not a responsibility of a big corporate. This is not a it doesn't matter whether you're public or private, big or small. It's not just also for corporates, it's basically for each and every one of us, trying to do our part to actually make things better. When talking about subjects of decarbonization, one of the best reports I would like to refer is still the report that came out before the 2023 COP on broken record. If we do everything, so conditional commitments, unconditional commitments, our net zero targets, private, public commitments, we are still going to be at 2 degrees. That is not going to be enough. So the world, which I firmly believe will come to an equilibrium, so we have to decide is whether it's actually with us or without us. So Malaysia has a big role to play. Malaysia has very ambitious decarbonization agendas of reducing our emissions by 45% from the 2005 levels by 2030 for us to be a low carbon economy to start with, and ambitious targets of being net zero by 2050. So this is not something that one party can do. So this has to be a team sport. So that is why today we have a team of esteemed speakers assigned here, from financiers to policymakers, to the largest utilities in Malaysia, to solutions providers. So we basically try to have a discussion how we can basically work together to ensure Malaysia drives its climate ambitions forward, and we do our part as corporates. So I have been honored to actually have 5 esteemed panelists on those. So the flow of the session would be, we will have a series of introductory remarks from each of the panelists, and then we will actually go on to structured Q&As. And you have in front of you the Slido for this session. So if you have any burning questions, please use the Slido and send in the questions so I can pick it up and basically put it on the speakers who we have in front of you, which I'm sure who's able to basically answer any question that comes our way. It's not in the picture, but Hatim, pleasure to have you with us as well. Last minute arrangement where one of our most influential speakers in Malaysia in the carbon markets is Puan Suhaini, called into the parliament to debrief the minister. Can't say no. So thank you very much for basically coming in to replace at the very last moment. Apologies that the picture is actually not behind you. So to kick off, let me invite someone I have admired and have been working for the past 2 years, more or less, on various decarbonization agendas and ESG adoption agendas, and someone who's very passionate on this subject and who leads not just UOB sustainability, but also the JC3 in terms of climate change. So somebody who lives, breathes climate change and decarbonization agendas and ESG adoption, and who's doing a lot of things to many industries across Malaysia and beyond. Let me take the great honor in actually setting the stage for you, Maureen, to deliver your opening remarks.
I'll stand up. I've been sitting for too long. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Supun, for the kind introduction, and a very good morning, distinguished guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. While I'm here to share about UOB's sustainability efforts, I'm also here to listen, to learn and connect with like-minded network. So let me first share what I've observed across the region. What I'm seeing is a paradigm shift where sustainability is becoming less of a side initiative, but is increasingly central to how business operates. From meeting our regulatory and also our shareholders' expectation to using emissions data to optimize our operations, even the workforce planning is evolving too. No longer just about skills and rewards, but it's also about upholding human rights, managing labor responsibly, and meeting the growing expectations of our staff from diversity, inclusiveness, and so on. And sustainability is also a golden ticket, I call it, for new growth opportunities. So like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, sustainability is reshaping every single part of our business. And in the context of banking, our regulators and our investors expect banks to progressively assess the impact of climate risk to our portfolio and vice versa. And banks are also expected to gradually shift our capital towards climate resilient assets, project activities as we transition towards a low carbon economy. And for us at UOB, we see sustainability as both a responsibility as well as an opportunity. And our journey began with small but intentional steps to which decarbonization is a key part to it, to our journey. So back in let me see if I can move the slide. Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, okay. So back in 2018, the picture that you see on the left, so we were designing and constructing our new head office, and the goal then was to build a modern and also future-looking or forward-looking building. Then COVID strikes. I think like many others, it forced us to pause and rethink really about what is a future-ready building. And beyond just, I would say, modern design as well as comfort. So what we have done here is we actually explored further various workspace designs and deep dive into green certifications, looking into the upfront investment costs as well as the potential benefits that comes with it, from cost savings to a better, a healthier workplace for our staff, and even, I think, for the benefits of the environment, from energy efficiency as well as reduced emissions. So with that in mind, we have incorporated various, I would say, sustainable features into our new head office, from smart energy system to biophilic design to wellness-focused amenities, facial recognition, and many more. And in fact, Signify implemented the smart lighting solutions for our Plaza One, and is also one of our U Energy partners across the region. So thank you, Signify, for being part of UOB's decarbonization journey. And fast forward to 2025, ladies and gentlemen, we have experienced firsthand the benefits of our green investments. And now we are retrofitting our Plaza 2, which is our previous head office that has served us for over 20 years. And what's important is, as the chair of the bank's sustainability committee, we look at sustainability holistically. Specifically for decarbonization, we closely monitor our own emissions and continuously identify initiatives to reduce as well as manage our own emissions. But more importantly, for me, decarbonization is not just about emission, but it is really about bringing sustainability principle to life, especially for my UOB colleagues. And this forms the foundation of the bank's sustainability journey. Of course, at a wider context, when you talk about building a low-carbon future, banks have a very critical role to play to enable the real economy, all businesses to transition. And here, the largest part of our climate impact is actually our Scope 3. In other words, our finance emission, our clients' emission. And to do so, we have identified 6 key sectors within our energy value chain as well as built environment. And these 6 net zero sectors represent the majority part of our wholesale lending portfolio. And they are also emission intensive as well as economically significant. So what does it mean by committing to net zero? We have since then proactively engaged our clients within these 6 sectors, sharing with them our sector-specific framework, which is aligned to the regional or global transition pathways. We provide tailored financing solutions, not just for the anchor, but also the supply chain. And last but not least, we link our clients to our pool of decarbonization partners. And to date, or I would say June this year, UOB as a group, we have provided up to 220 billion worth of sustainable financing across the region. And to take it a step further, other than the 6 net zero sectors, we have also developed 6 sustainable financing framework to support the broader sectors to transition. And this slide summarizes our 6 sustainable financing framework, which clearly articulates the prerequisites that businesses have to fulfill before you can access our financing instruments. And more importantly, these frameworks are verified by credible SPOs to make sure that our framework complies with the various international and regional taxonomies as well as standards. And here we have 6. First one is to finance green building or assets. Second is about sustainable cities development. Third is about circular economy. Fourth is about sustainable food and agribusiness. Fifth is sustainable or green trade financing. And last but not least, transition financing. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot more substance within each of these frameworks. So if any of you are interested to find out more, do engage myself or any of my colleagues at the conference today. And just to share with you some insights, over the last 2 years, our sustainable financing portfolio has grown 30% in Malaysia. And out of that, close to 30% are directed towards SMEs. And the growth has largely been driven by 3 things in Malaysia. Number 1 is the use of proceeds to channel towards renewable energy project. Number 2 is on sustainable trade finance. And 3, there's increasing demand for green assets. And by that, I mean commercial buildings, smart warehouses, as well as green data centers. And looking ahead, ladies and gentlemen, and this might impact some of you, with the rollout of the National Sustainability Reporting Framework, I would expect increasing demand for sustainability-linked loan, as more and more corporates will be looking at approaching sustainability holistically, as well as looking to align financing with measurable sustainability targets. And other than financing, we have also gone beyond, I would say, financing to support our clients. We have organized a series of ESG bespoke programs with our credible partners, from CBAM Masterclass for our export clients to, we also have EUDR Forum for our agri and palm oil sector. And recently, together with Control Union and Marema, we actually had our energy efficiency workshop to prepare our impacted clients for the upcoming EECA. And we work with our anchor clients, in particular their procurement and their sustainability team, to co-create programs to encourage the supply chain, which mostly are SMEs, to transition. And here, we curate or we design the financing incentives to align with the anchor sustainability targets, which can be in the form of emission reduction or even green certification. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, SMEs, the backbone of our country. We have launched UOB Sustainability Accelerator together with Bursa Malaysia, Control Union, and DHL. And here we funded our SME clients access to CSI platform and offer them preferential rate for green logistics, assurance, as well as certifications. So there you go, Supun, our decarbonization, sustainability progress in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Big round of applause. Maureen, while you walk in, a follow-up question for you. Like what you mentioned, for a finance institution like you, chunk of your emissions are actually in your portfolios. And big part of it is actually hard to abate, hard to push sectors like SMEs. So what are the challenges that you see on a daily basis, and what you are basically doing to basically get all these SMEs in? Like what we discussed, NSRF is actually not going to have a direct effect on them, but of course they are supplying to the big organization. They will have to pull up their socks and contribute. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a very long question, Supun. Okay, as far as the SMEs is concerned, I think this year has been challenging for the SMEs, right? I mean, with the various fiscal reforms, as well as the subsidy rationalization, the e-invoicing, and so on and so forth. So I think we all know, and the global uncertainty, not forgetting that. So what we are doing here is above and beyond what I've just mentioned. I also believe in the power of collective action when it comes to SMEs. And here, if I can just share on this particular slide. So this is unique to Malaysia. So under the, I would say, purview of the central bank, there is this committee called the Joint Committee on Climate Change, or JC3, SME Focus Group. And this platform brings together the central bank, Securities Commission, 11 commercial banks, as well as 4 insurers onto this platform. And our mandate is to help Malaysian SMEs to transition by doing 3 things. Number 1, we provide capacity building to increase their awareness. Number 2, we provide affordable financing to help SME to defray their ESG costs. Number 3, we offer SME-centric tools, things like such as the ESG Jumpstart Portal, the Climate Data Catalog, and so on. And this is to make it easier and simpler for the SMEs to transition. And I would say over the 2 years of establishment of SFG, we have engaged more than 3,000 SMEs. And out of that, we are seeing uptake in Bank Negara ESG funded scheme by about 3 times over the last 2 years. So that tells you that, number 1, awareness has increased. Number 2, adoption has increased, right? And I think what is also important is next month, we are having our inaugural SFG conference for the SMEs. And at this conference, SME can gain insights on 2 things. Number 1, to find out what is the latest ESG financing and incentives available for SMEs. And number 2, to also deep dive into practical decarbonization, I would say, initiative that they can leverage on. So do scan the QR code here and share this with your supply chain if they are SMEs. And I would think they can benefit a lot from this particular conference. And maybe just one point to note, right? Other than collective action, another important I wouldn't say trend, but I think factors that I'm seeing that will move the needle is a policy-driven integration of ESG as part of procurement or supply chain standards. And what do I mean by this, Asopun? Because we are working a lot with our anchors, but that is more on a voluntary basis. Some anchors are more progressive, so they'll be engaging the supply chain, right? But imagine if we can have a structure or a policy, I would say a supportive policy environment where ESG can be integrated as part of contracts or market access. That will give SMEs more motivation to transition. And I would think that can potentially create a ripple effect across the system, ecosystem as well. So not just SMEs, but even anchors, bankers, and solution providers will be motivated to support and help SME at a larger, I would say, context.
Thanks, Maureen. A discussion that we could actually have for the whole day. But thank you very much. One thing I noticed when you're narrating is that word impact that you are making. With that, I would like to basically move on to Vardhan. Also, we have been very honored to actually work with Signify over the years, and especially on the EECA update as well. And every time I look into the solutions that Signify offers, there's always something new. There are things for disaster management, there's things for municipalities, there are things which mimics how people live, how people breathe. So you are your innovators, your solutions providers. Vardhan, the stage is yours to share the impact that you are making on the agenda related to decarbonization.
Well, thank you so much, Supun. And thank you so much, Maureen, for introducing Signify. Because yes, UOB, and she agreed that I can use the name, is one of our biggest customer in the region. We are, of course, one of the biggest lighting solution provider for UOB. Now with that, I took this chance to introduce Signify. So for the next 4 or 5 minutes, I will try to take you through our journey of who we are, what are we trying to do in sustainability, and how are we working with some of the leading customers like UOB in Malaysia to ensure that we are creating a path for them for a sustainable future. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Vardhan. I look into the public business for Signify for Asia Pacific. And I always use one simple line to introduce Signify. We are the second largest producer of light to the world. Any guesses? Who is the first one? It's Sun. So we are the second largest after Sun. A lot of you know us as Philips Lighting. We changed our name in 2018 to Signify because, of course, the name Philips Lighting was getting associated with an image which is more around lamps, tube lights, and bulbs. And of course, we wanted to change our image to more innovations, sustainable solutions, intelligent lighting. So that image was not getting matched. And that was the reason, as Google changed it to Alphabet when they started focusing on moon landing, creating autonomous vehicles. That's the reason we changed our name to Signify. We still continue to hold all our portfolios as Philips name, but we also have now an intelligent platform, which is Interact, which is, of course, one of the solutions that UOB is using today. As I said, we are the #1 lighting supplier globally. With 6.1 billion euro of sales and around 30,000 employees, we are proud of what we provide to the world in terms of lighting solution. And the good part about lighting is that it is everywhere. And if we can start using that lighting to start delivering intelligent solutions along with sustainable energy efficient solution, it's a win-win proposition. And that's what lighting today is doing. It has become like a real estate space. As Supun was telling, today lighting can actually count the number of people in this room. It can actually tell the air condition that the density of the people in this room has increased, so you need to reduce your temperature by, let's say, 2 degrees. I'm sure you must have heard of the term called socially comfortable temperature. And that's where suddenly if I reduce the number of the people to half in this room, you will start feeling cold. So something or somebody needs to automatically tell your air condition that the density has reduced. And imagine if lighting can start doing all those things. So it is not just giving you light, it is actually now providing intelligence which you can start using for multiple factors. For UOB, one of the biggest point apart from sustainability was how can you enhance employee well-being, employee productivity. So today lighting can actually do all those things. And we will talk about some of these things, but today we are at the sustainability conference. So I also wanted to give you an update of what we are doing around sustainability. 2%, and believe me, it's a big number, of global carbon emissions is through lighting. Just to talk about Malaysia, I'll just throw two numbers. One number is 25 billion ringgit. This is the energy spend that we do from commercial buildings in Malaysia across all kinds of solutions. And out of that, 4 billion ringgit is through lighting. And in Malaysia, of course, TNB is here. If you see street lights, almost 65 to 70% street lights are with TNB. Still, LEDification is around 40-45%. There is a lot to do in terms of energy savings. So there is a lot of transformation that is expected on that path. Our ambition is very clear. We want to be net zero in terms of our emissions by 2040. And our long-term target is, of course, to get 90% reductions across scope 1, 2, and 3. Now, interestingly, if you see our status, and the message on this slide is that scope 3 emissions actually comprise of 99.86% of our total emissions. And that's the point that we are targeting. If you see this, you will see that the product use and the end of life treatment is actually the main point in terms of scope 3. And that is where our focus is, that how can we work on our products to make them more efficient? How can we use those product portfolios for our customers like UOB or for our customers, let's say TNB, and ensure that our customers get more efficient product, and in turn it helps us reduce the overall scope 3 emissions. So yes, we are on an advocacy path from a green renewable energy usage perspective, and a big focus on making our products more and more efficient. We spent almost 250 million euros in R&D just to develop sustainable innovation products in 2024. And that's the kind of commitment we are driving from our scope 3 perspective, because we believe if we can make our solutions more efficient, more intelligent, we are creating a path towards not only a sustainable innovations from Signify perspective, but also for our customers. Smart lighting, I already spoke about a lot of things, and probably during lunch, during networking, we can speak about it. It can do a lot of things today. Solar, big focus area, a lot of work going on in Malaysia. We are also participating in that. And the last one, which is on the industry part. A lot of this 24 billion ringgit that I spoke about and the 4 billion ringgit for lighting comes from manufacturing and industry. And that's where our partnership also with Control Union, because EEC Act is a very important act now for Malaysia. Energy efficiency is a big focus. And this focus on refurbishment, remanufacturing, and circularity, which Maureen mentioned, will pave the path for us to achieve the scope 3 emissions. So with that, I will end my presentation. Thank you again, Control Union, MDBC, and the esteemed panel for this opportunity. Let's talk more. Our team is here. You can see a booth outside. Please talk to them. Please come to me. I'll be happy to talk more and more about our lighting portfolio.
Thank you very much, Vardhan. Big round of applause. Like what you just pointed out, 99.8% of your emissions, so it's more than Maureen's emissions in scope 3
Yeah.
is actually, so that's the challenging part.
Yeah.
And I have seen you do amazing work in countries like Philippines in terms of disaster setups and exactly like what you pointed out, lighting is always the lowest hanging fruit. When you basically want to decarbonize in any organization, that's where people actually start. Given your work with municipalities, what are your biggest barriers in scaling these energy solutions at the city, township levels in Malaysia?
Okay. Now, great question, Spoon, and good that TNV is also here. So I was telling, of course, now if you see Malaysia, now the challenge with every city is that and let's talk just about street light as an example. Now, street light ownership today is divided between different players. There are street light owned and maintained by cities. In the same city, you will have street light owned by TNB, maintained by TNB. And in the same city, you will also have street lights owned and maintained by JKR, which is the Ministry of Public Works. Now, it's very difficult, first of all, to bring all the parties together because the structural approach towards sustainability, the direction in terms of how the tender processes go out is very different. So that's the first challenge of how do you bring everyone towards the same goal and start driving towards the same agenda. The second is ROI. We all know, I think Malaysia has a very subsidized approach to electricity. If you compare it with Philippines, where if you move from conventional to LED, the payback will probably come in 3 years. But the same thing, if you do in Malaysia, the payback will be in 8 to 10 years. Because electricity is so subsidized. And that's one challenge, that how do you convince on the ROI and payback on some of these solutions. Now, that purely cannot happen from an energy perspective. So you have to expand the scope of sustainability. Now, just what we did with UOB, you cannot have an ROI simply by saying that, okay, your energy was 100, it became 50. You have to start including elements like maintenance efficiency. You have to start including elements like reduction in your employees becoming ill, your reduction in your health insurance points. Now, when you start linking all those points, and same for the city has to agree that lighting today is leading to reduction in accidents. It is improving safety of people on road, women on road, pedestrians on road. You have to start bringing all these points together. Only then a justifiable ROI comes into picture, where you can say that, yes, this makes sense and I need to go forward. So that's, of course, the biggest challenge. A lot of this cannot happen on Excel because these are very subjective for different people. Somebody may agree that, yes, accident, I don't know, it may or may not. So can I get an approval basis that data point is a point where a lot of these discussions go on hold.
Yeah, thanks, Vardhan. I think this also puts up a thought, maybe some insights for the next panel to come, because we are talking about responsible business conduct. So purchasing policies and likewise, so this is not always about CapEx. We still look into CapEx, but once you put CapEx, OpEx together, this is actually still the better choice. So I think we have to look into it holistically. Let me move next into a giant in timber who basically is transforming itself from natural forestry into plantation forestry, managing this forest sustainably, and now evolving in as a decarbonization solutions provider in being one of the largest wood pellet manufacturers in Malaysia, and who has signed a deal with Kobe Steel to actually set up the largest black pellet plants in Malaysia, and also developing your own carbon projects in Sarawak, hopefully to be the first nature-based project from Sarawak. Francois, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shapun. I know you are eager to get to the black pellet one, but let's go through the other steps first. So summarizing just a few topics that we will cover, looking at our timber transformation part, the pellets, and then the carbon projects. So back in 2019, up until then, we were basically focusing, and the majority of the business was in natural forest. But then in 2019, the transformation started that we say we move away from natural forest logging towards sustainably planted forest and managing that. And up until, I think, 2021, 2022, the last of our planted forests were certified under the MTCS scheme, which is endorsed by PEFC. So all our planted forest timber is currently certified. So the big focus of it is then to focus on the zero waste resource utilization, to make sure that every piece of timber is being used and nothing goes to waste. Sustainable products, looking at diversifying the products we're making. And then, of course, the last one is the circular economy, which comes into play of using the last bit of fiber to convert it into a product that can be used. Now, the biomass fuel. So we started off just during COVID, the factory was constructed, and after COVID, we started manufacturing the white pellets, which was majority is exported to Japan for converting their factories or their energy supply from coal-based to biomass. So the latest now that we're moving in, what Supun has touched on, is that we're moving into black pellet, and the signing deal that we've done with Kobe Steel is basically just at this stage, just a feasibility study is ongoing to see the feasibility of putting up these pellet plants. So that's basically converting your black pellet, your white pellet, into a black pellet, which gives you a much higher calorific value. The energy from that's about 40% better than a white pellet. So it's definitely a lot more energy efficient than just burning white pellet, and it's also a lot more durable than doing white pellets. So all of this white pellets and now the future for looking at the black pellets is from the waste. So this basically, after we're doing our sawn timber and taking out the veneer for plywood, we use that waste and convert that waste to pellets. The next thing that we've moved into was starting off our carbon project, the first carbon project in Sarawak. As you all know, Sarawak was the first state to put the legislation in place, and we took it on ourselves to be part of this journey with the Sarawak state. And we started with this project in Marudi, the Marudi Forest, Peat Swamp Forest Conservation and Restoration Project. So just quickly, some details on the project. It's VCS under Vera project. Basically following the VM0007 methodology, which is focusing on the avoided planned deforestation, because this area was actually one of the areas identified for converting into a planted forest. And then the second part of it is to conserve the wetlands, basically not to develop it and intact the wetlands. So this project covers about 25,000 hectares, and in average it should deliver around about 1.6 million CO2es at the peak on average over the 30 or 40 year period. The three pillars on a carbon project, we identified that for a good carbon project you need to focus on these three areas, of which one, of course, is the carbon. You need to ensure that you have good, improve the carbon stock and build on it. The second part, of course, is community, and community is a key and is basically the main part of it, because without the community and not using the community in terms of their knowledge and their expertise in managing and protecting forests, your project will fail. So that's key, that you need to work with the communities. And of course, the last part is the biodiversity. Enhancing the biodiversity, improve it through and planting forest, enhancing the forest, the degraded areas. So that's basically the part of focusing most on the carbon project. Just a few quick points on challenges, and I'm not going to go through all of the challenges. I think the ones to highlight most is, I think, what is key for project developers, and being the first project developer, being the first is not always the easiest, and there's a lot of challenges that we've pulled through, or that we've gone through, and policy and government policies and frameworks, I think that is key. It needs to be in place for a project developer to work. So that is one of the key things that was a challenge, and is still a challenge. Stakeholder expectations. A lot of the communities is expecting that you would suddenly get a lot of funds out of a project, and people didn't understand what it took to develop a project. And I think Dr. Renard earlier mentioned the cost of a project, a million ringgit. I can just tell you for this 3-4 years that we're working in, we're standing on about 10 million that we've spent on it, and we have not yet validated the project. So it is a huge capital, and I think we need to knock on UOB's door for a bit of funding in this project. So I think that is the key. Marketing, voluntary carbon market. Dr. Renard also mentioned this earlier. He's saying that a lot of focus need to move towards, or people in this area need to focus on, everybody focus on removals, but nobody wants to look at reductions. But if you look at this area we're living in the tropics, reductions is basically preventing your clearing of your forest, and nobody wants to invest in that. Since 2023, when you had the Guardian report, the whole market crashed for voluntary carbon markets, voluntary credits, especially when it is on reductions, and everybody wants to have removals. But you know, forest in the tropics recovers very fast. So before you can even start getting everything going and getting your project in place to plant trees, the forest has recovered quite a lot already. So the big focus in the tropics is reductions, and that's where we have a problem at this stage, that your prices for your credits on that is very low. So I think a lot of focus on the markets, and to get Malaysia and this region out there to say that, you know, buying or investing in reduction credits is just as valuable and as important as investing in removals. So thank you. I think for that is all from me.
Thanks, Francois, for that deep dive. Yeah, I like what you said, carbon markets are actually evolving fast, very fast, and the rules keeps on changing, methodologies keeps on changing, and it's tough for project developers like you to actually be abreast. But there's also questions on the credibility of these carbon credits, and likewise, of course, when we talk about decarbonization agenda, offsets is the last. So offsets is not the first choice. You avoid, you reduce, you replace, and then you offset. But how can we make these offsets credible? How can we ensure that long-term security for project developers like you?
Yeah, I think the first thing which I've just touched on the last points would be from the regulators, is that we need to get those framework in place, because I think that framework is in place and that integrity is created for project developers. Then people would also get a bit more comfort in investing in those projects. So I think that is key, and I know there's a lot of work going on, especially from MFF side also, focusing on that for Malaysia. The other thing in Malaysia is, as you know, that the forest is a state matter, so I think that alignment that needs to be there between federal and state is important for project developers, because project developers need to know, you know, how is this voluntary carbon credits that you're creating, how much of that's going to go against the national determined contributions, and how much is it would be available for sales. So those things need to be clear for a project developer to go in. And I think, yeah, key transparency is another one. It needs to be transparent in what we are doing and how we are doing it, because I think that's a lot where all this stories come from that was published in the Guardian, was because people were not transparent enough in how they developed the project. What is the baseline? What are they going to do? How is communities going to benefit from this? All of those things is not open enough. So I think that's key for project developers to focus on. And whoever wants to invest in projects, I mean, those are key things that they're looking at. So those things need to be in place.
Yeah, fantastic, Francois. Thank you very much. let's move on to Puyong, Malaysia's largest utility company. And Puyong, you're basically leading that energy transition, and you have very ambitious decarbonization roadmaps. So, and I would say TNB is one of those companies can actually impact the entire decarbonization agenda in leaps and bounds, would be one of the key drivers in basically accelerating Malaysia into our net zero targets. So share us your story. Share us how TNB is impacting the Malaysian status quo.
Thank you, Mr. Supun. Good morning, everyone. I'm Puyong from TNB. So I'll just take the introduction here rather than walk over to the other side. So I'll take the next 5 to 7 minutes just to do introductions, because coming back to the title for today, our panelist is focused on decarbonizing Malaysia, sectorial pathway to net zero. So coming from utility, I will be sharing our net zero pathway from utility perspective. I think it is also to the interest of many, because as Tenaga Scope 1 is naturally a Scope 2 for everyone here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a bit of introduction on our business. TNB is the largest electricity utility company in Malaysia, and we are definitely in forefront of net zero emissions target. So as a company, we have already had our target of net zero by 2050. So of course, the energy transition journey will take place. It comes with the collaborations with the national agenda, with the collaborations with partners, as well as it's definitely a journey towards the net zero. So before that, just brief introductions of Tenaga's presence. So domestically, we host about close to 50% of generation's capacity. What it means is there's also IPPs and other utilities that's in this generation capacity. So in this 50%, about 50% domestic generation capacity, we have close to steel, we have close to 50% of coal, and then we have about 30% of gas and about 20% of renewable energy, including our hydro. So what it means is we have a difficult task ahead of us to go net zero, because in this effort, we can't go off our coal plants overnight, because we have to think of the energy trilemma. So there is the big considerations in Tenaga when we craft our energy transition plan together with, of course, our regulator and our ministry. Because looking into the energy trilemma is very important to find the right balance between our affordability, reliability, keeping the connections on 24/7, as well as sustainability. So these three elements actually became one of the key considerations as we chart our energy emission pathway. So on top of that, we can see that we do have our transmission as well as distribution network. I think that's the grid is actually very, very key element when we talk about energy transition. So this is a major part of our regulated business of TNB. And we actually reached to retail customer of 10.4 million as of today. So that's a huge number that we need to take care of as well. In terms of, I also like to highlight that we do have our subsidiaries in place to actually assist and facilitate this sustainability journey of everyone. That includes our G-Sparks. If any of you have this initiative of installing rooftop solar, you may have came across our very own subsidiaries, G-Sparks, to help everyone to actually have another solutions to have your rooftop solutions. We do have also our TNBS that provides energy efficiency solutions, as well as even street lighting is under TNBS. And TNBX is also available to actually facilitate for companies who want to go forefront in terms of net zero, to even look into the certifications as well as the GET, Green Energy Tariff. So we actually do have this in the whole value chain to ensure that everyone is in this net zero target together. Okay. in terms of our global presence, because we reckon that it is very important to not just prepare Malaysia, but also to prepare our team as well as capability to be very good in our renewable energy sectorial. So we have actually invested in our Vantage. Through our Vantage, we have our presence in UK, and recently we have also Sparks in our Australia. So in these two subsidiaries, we actually focus investment in terms of renewable energy. We look into our solar projects, look into onshore, offshore wind, and also a more renewable energy base. So with that, we actually second our team and then build capability in preparations of accelerating the energy transition within Malaysia as well. Yeah. Coming back to the sustainability journey, so sustainability is not new in TMB. Way back in 2016, when we start crafting our TMB Reimagine strategy, we actually already talking about how to embed sustainability into our overall Tenaga strategy. So the sustainability agenda became even apparent when 2023, we set up our very own sustainability division and have our very first CSO. The purpose is very, very clear. Two things. One is we really need to strengthen our governance on sustainability. How to actually chart what needs to be done as a responsible company. On top of that, the second objective is really to deploy all the strategies, because if you really want to make a company sustainable, you have to actually deploy and embed all this strategy into operations. Then the whole ESG agenda will make sense. So that's the purpose on why we actually set up the sustainability divisions, to actually embed all the elements into our business. Okay, next, just a quick one that I am already mentioned, that by 2050 is our net zero target, and alongside you can see that we do have our shorter term targets in terms of how we increase our renewable energy capacity, as well as a commitment or not to invest in the new coal plant. Okay. I'd like to touch a bit on our energy transition plan. I think that's to the interest of everyone. So there are basically three key pillars that we move forward. First is decarbonization. How we actually accelerate our generation decarbonization is very key. As I mentioned, we do still have our coal, and then with that, there are actually several initiatives that we actually put in place. First, existing fleet that we have. How can we be more optimized in terms of our heat rate, in terms of our, with the less coal, we actually generate the same capacity. I think that is the low-hanging fruits that TMB is exploring, and in fact, through our GenCo, our subsidiaries, we already see the results of it. So on top of that, we do have our expansions of renewable energy. Maybe I can touch a bit more later in terms of NETR that actually support the country agenda actually support TMB's, in a way, energy transition and enable the accelerations of energy transitions. So, and also we do explore our hydrogen, which is another perspective that can help with decarbonization as well as carbon capture and utilization technology. And the second pillar, which is very, very key, because I think all of us heard of this, there's no energy transition without a grid, right? So how, in this case, it is very important that there are two key parts. Within Peninsula, it's very important to make our grid smart, to be able and ready to receive renewable energy. So as we know, Malaysia's target is by 2050, we need to achieve 70% of renewable energy. And we know that Malaysia is blessed with sunlight, so solar is the key. Then we have to really make our grid smart to ensure that we are able to receive this solar with this nature of intermittency, which we all know that we only experience about 4 hours peak of sunlight. Then what about the rest of the time? Definitely we need the continuous supply. Then how do we find the balance? Smart grid became very, very important in this agenda. And the other part of this pillar is really to collaborate and leverage on the partnership with our ASEAN region. And the APG, ASEAN Power Grid, became a very, very key driver to this. And last pillar is really to empower our cross-sector electrification. That includes our initiatives on enable EV ecosystem, as well as how to empower and assist our customers in terms of demand management and things like that. Okay, very quick one, just in view of time, I'd just like to share that I fully agree with what Maureen mentioned. Sustainability is not just about emissions. We also need to take care of the overall spectrum of the ESG. Absolutely. So in Tenaga, we do have a framework in terms of environment, social, and governance. So each of, there are total of 14 key focus areas. Beyond emissions, we also look into the social parts, business ethics parts, as well as biodiversity is also something that we start to explore and actually put into consideration, because we know as we build and construct our projects, we have to take care of the environment. And then how can we build in the biodiversity element is something that we explore, and I think we can partner and collaborate more. Yeah. So I will not speak further in this carbon management plan. There's a QR code. I welcome everyone to actually read more about our carbon management strategy. And if I have chance later through questions, I can talk more about our detailed carbon management plan. Yeah, so a quick one. We do have our net zero target in place to facilitate this country agenda on net zero by 2050. Thank you.
Enormous challenges in front of you. But you are a champion when it comes to NETR. I want to put a question on that. You are basically champion for several flagship initiatives under the NETR. So how does this NETR, what are these projects and how are these projects accelerating your decarbonization plan, and basically, particularly when it comes to reducing emissions from power generation and enabling a cleaner grid?
Okay, thank you. I think that helps with my slides, unfinished slide on carbon management plan. So we talk about, we all know the NETR was launched, and then with the blessing from, and also directive from government, so there is this accelerations projects through NETR. So out of 10 flagship projects, Tenaga actually is recognized as a champion for 3 out of the 10 projects. First is on the hybrid hydro floating solar. So what it means is basically a total 2.5 gigawatt of potential that is already available. And what we're doing is using the surface of our hydro plant, we are actually building our hybrid hydro floating solar. So there is a 2.5 gigawatt potential that Tenaga is already embarking onto. And we are actually the champion of the project. So on top of that, there is a 500 megawatt project on solar park. We name it solar park. So it's already in the pipeline. And through this project, Tenaga is again the leading of this project, and we actually bring on board not just within Tenaga, but we also bring on board our locals as well as our vendors, local vendors on board to be in this 500 megawatt project. So as we are moving towards energy transition plan, we also being inclusive. And then the third key project is on hydrogen. We actually partner with Petronas to look into the feasibility studies as well as the potential and technically and commercially in terms of viabilities of the project. So those are the key projects that's already in the pipeline. Then alongside out of the 10 flagship projects, we do have also other projects that Tenaga is partnering with other partners, for example, some of the community rooftop. Yeah. So I will say that NETR actually sets a good tone that energy transition is a must and is a real, and there is a joint commitment. And it's actually now focus is really on execution. We have to execute and make it happen.
Fantastic. TNB, so much more than our electricity bills that we get at the end. Yeah. Last but not least, let me move on to Hatim on Malaysian Forest Fund. We started SEC in 2023, and there's only one organization that has actually featured and given the audience to basically share what it has to offer to the entire Sustainable Action Conference audience over the last 3 years. That is only Malaysia Forest Fund. That's how much we believe that what the impact that Malaysia Forest Fund can actually deliver to the Malaysian context. Atim, without further ado, share us what are you up to these days, and how is MFF gearing up to be that leader in terms of the nature-based solutions in the Malaysian landscape?
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Supun. Hello, everyone. My name is Hatim. I'm actually the Corporate Development from Malaysia Forest Fund, here today representing Ms. Suhaini Harun, which sends her apologies for not being able to be with us here today. So, without further ado, I'll begin my presentation. Okay. Okay.
Let's give a minute for the technical hurdles to be sorted out. We have it in the screens in front of us, but not on the screens that is back.
Not coming up on the external screens.
Yeah.
Never mind, maybe I can just continue
Yeah,
as the technical
please, thank you very much
is
for that.
sorted. Right, so as many of you would probably be aware, if you've engaged with Malaysia Forest Fund, we've always talked about the importance of a biofilm report in 2019. Okay, it's already coming up on screen. Okay, on the left-hand side, where you can see, we have always embodied what the problems that are being shown in this diagram on the left-hand side. So from the report, you see there's annual spending that is required for biodiversity protection is actually 2.1 billion, whereby as of 2019, we have managed to surmount about 700 million, leaving a gap of 1.4 billion for biodiversity financing. So this backdrop actually sets the case for action for Malaysia Forest Fund, which was established based off of a cabinet decision on in 2020 and subsequently incorporated in 2021. We are a companies limited by guarantee. For those who are not aware, we are not profit-centric. We are rather service-centric as an agency under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability. Our mandates are, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. The first one is to develop and implement innovative finance strategies. The second is to develop standards, guidelines, and procedures that come with these strategies. And the next is to develop and operationalize innovative finance initiatives. Furthermore, we have to facilitate communication, including capacity building and awareness campaigns, as well as to verify and report on all the activities that take place under Malaysia Forest Fund. So this is a context setting to what it is that Malaysia Forest Fund actually does. We have to look into all nature-based mechanisms and financial instruments for forest-positive impact funding, while the talk of the town has always been on carbon, but we are also more goes beyond carbon as well. Okay, so on the second part, I'm not going to go too much into what are the benefits of nature-based solutions, as I'm sure many here are already aware. There are several benefits that nature-based solutions can add to the initiatives that we do that also has other added benefits and impacts. So I want to bring your attention to the right-hand side of the screen, whereby we are looking at in fulfilling our mandate to innovate, to find innovative solutions. We look at market mechanisms first off, which involves transactional sort of arrangement, whereby that it involves transfers of quantified and verified GHG benefits. This includes the carbon credit markets. We've also looked at carbon allowances, INMOs, and other mechanisms as such. And the next one is non-market mechanisms, whereby you're looking from a more philanthropic paradigm and looking at voluntary contributions to forest initiatives. So alongside, in line with these mechanisms, types of mechanism, we have developed two financial instruments. That the first one being the Forest Conservation Certificate, which embodies a non-market instrument. It is essentially a certification program that provides a governance and transparency structure, as well as certification for those who contribute financially, as well as those who implement sustainable forest initiatives on the ground. So this particular program comes with transparency and assurance and third-party verification, as well as 10% tax deduction on the aggregate income for those who contribute to forest initiatives. So the second one being the market instrument is the forest carbon offset, which is the national crediting system for the forestry sector. It enables the quantification of verified GHG impact, as well as enables carbon offsetting for those entities who are looking to offset their emissions. But as mentioned by Mr. Supun earlier, offsetting should be looked at as a last resort after you've exhausted your channels for reducing or avoiding your own emissions from your operations. Right, it's just a bit of update on the progress of the FCC as to date. We have had 26 applications on projects, which 9 of them were duly reviewed and endorsed by our external advisory committee for fundraising. As you can see on screen, we have a funding requirement of 32.7 million. I'm not going to go through the details of every project, but I encourage everyone to actually engage with us and learn more about these projects that you can actually contribute to. Right, so the core focus of this particular introduction will be on the forest carbon offset itself. We are developing this market mechanism on behalf of the ministry with Malaysian Forest Fund as the implementing agency. We have finished the development of the main guidelines, as well as the associated subsidiary guidelines, which involves the registration process, the issuance requirements, validation and verification. And we are now in the midst of finalizing the methodologies. The 4 initial methodologies that we've selected is the afforestation, reforestation, and restoration, improved forest management, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, as well as wetland restoration. This was in consultation with various stakeholders to identify which were the suitable methodologies for us to initiate. And we are in the phase of piloting each of these methodologies to ensure its accounting robustness and the integrity of the entire FCO program itself. Right, just an overview of the overall picture of the carbon markets and the spaces that they involve. They have the geographic scope of being international or domestic, the market drivers being compliance and voluntary. So the FCO program is actually gearing up to meet the requirements of both international and domestic, as well as compliance and voluntary markets, to ensure that it is more acceptable at the market level. So we want to develop something that is globally accepted but locally relevant. Right, this is my last slide actually. So on the in developing the FCO program, we've actually looked at several other government-based crediting mechanisms to ensure that the requirements are in line with those that's already developed and those that are already in the market. So this is as of our the date of our feasibility study. Thank you so much to Mr. Supun and Control Union for facilitating the feasibility study for the NIT. And so the if you look at the actual statistics today from the carbon pricing dashboard of World Bank, there's actually 33 government-based crediting systems implemented, with 11 that's under development today. And we have seen projects such as the one on the right-hand side. It's a 1.5 million hectare rice paddy project. It's going under a Thailand verified emissions reductions program, as well as Japan crediting mechanism. So you can look at the co-certification potential by both the buyer and seller of credits under the Article 6, or you can even look at the Thailand eBus project. The first Article 6 project was actually using a national crediting system, which is the Thailand verified emissions reductions. That is it for my sharing today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shatin. Big round of applause. And we are seeing finally the methodologies coming live very soon, I hope. There's a lot of demand from international market, of course, but there's a lot of areas that we, the local prospects cannot be achieved or cannot be realized to the full potential if we basically set our benchmarks actually very high. So how are these going to be the new methodologies coming up? Are these going to be international? Are they going to be local? Is it actually also going to serve the developers and unlock the potential within Malaysia as well?
Right. Firstly, in designing the FCO, we've actually, in the development process, we've involved a lot of stakeholders from the state governments, as well as the civil societies, the academia, to understand what are the requirements on the ground, what are the differences that make up what is suitable and what is not suitable. And one of our conversations with, for example, Thailand's TIVA, I think was 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, they were talking about how they bring in context relevance with the TIVA by, for example, the independent crediting systems were gradually phasing out renewable energies. So they were talking about how potentially having at the local context, they still require a lot of investment into making renewable energies more viable. So they're still recognizing it as those eligible activities today. So we are looking at it from a similar context, whereby we are also, we have involved on the development a group of technical experts which represent various stakeholders, including some experts who have actually been involved with developing methodologies for the independent standards as well. So another side to this is that we are working closely as well with independent standards. As I'm sure many of you are aware, we have standing MOUs with the likes of Vera and Gold Standard. Under this collaboration, we are looking to potentially do a mutual recognition or a dual certification, whereby the FCO program can be accepted at the international level as well, but has a local governance, which we intend to bring about solving the issues of some of them, like cost efficiency, as well as governance, as well as being relevant to the local context in terms of how we manage forests, in terms of how we manage local communities and such issues.
Yeah, thanks, Hatim.
And in addition to that, one more point. We have actually been, we gained support from the UK PAC
Fantastic.
commissioning to do an assessment on the FCO program itself, and to assess how this program needs to or is aligned with international requirements, especially under the Article 6 as well as CORSIA.
Fantastic. I've been alerted by the organizing committee that we are seriously running short of time because there's another session to go ahead until we actually break for the working lunch. But one last remark from all of you. Malaysia has the potential to lead ASEAN in different fronts, like what we discussed on green financing, to renewable energy, to energy efficiency, to forest carbon, and being a credible solutions provider, not just for Malaysia, but basically for far beyond. So if you had to pick just one to lead on credibly, where should you focus and what is need to cement that position for Malaysia to emerge as the leader and set the tone for ASEAN? Starting with Maureen. Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Supun. That's a crystal ball questions. Let me try and answer. If I have to pick one, I would say then it will be the energy transition, because that for me is the cornerstone of our net zero, right? And Malaysia, we are in a sweet spot. I mean, from the fact that we have access to natural capital, advantages from natural, and we also have, I would say, the political will from the private and public sector to drive this through. And what is also interesting, if you look at the whole ecosystem and the supply chain, Malaysia, we are one of the strongest players when it comes to E&E, semiconductor. Yeah. So whether it's from the output to the demand, to the input and the enablers, we have all the building blocks required to basically, I would say, champion the energy transition, at least for ASEAN.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Vardhan?
Again, very quickly, so I'm by nature a sales guy, so I'll talk numbers. So, of course, as I said, I spoke about the number 24 billion ringgit, out of that 4 billion lighting. And Supun, as you mentioned, lighting is probably the lowest hanging and the most easiest way to achieve a very quick one step towards sustainability. So that will be my urge. I think Malaysia has a lot of potential. Still a lot of lighting points on conventional. If you talk about an average as a country, we are at around 30% in terms of LED adoption. So long way to go. Lot of organizations can adopt that very fast and can take that one step towards reducing that 2% that I spoke about in terms of carbon reduction. And of course, bringing that 4 billion down to 2 billion, because that's the immediate energy saving that you get with lighting.
Fantastic. Francois?
Yeah, I think as a project developer, or from that point of view, I think the work that's being done by Malaysian Forest Fund and also the collaboration with BCX and the work that they've been doing in ASEAN, I think that's important. That work that's being said to make sure that the transparency is there, the integrity of projects is there. I think that is the key thing that would ensure that Malaysia, where we are, would cement that in that point that we can go forward from there.
Puyo?
From utility, I'll definitely go for energy transition, but I'd like to add the perspective on it should be a responsible and inclusive energy transition through collaborations. So why responsible? Like I mentioned, is you need proper planning and considerations on various factors, especially the energy trilemma factor. Why inclusive? Because we cannot do it alone as a big corporations. We have to consider the whole entire value chain, including our contractors, our vendors, and our people, our employees. I think the whole inclusivity is one of the key, and it's also very aligned with the sustainability that we actually focus on. And then the last point on collaborations, I think you can't talk about energy transition just from corporations or utility like Tenaga. You need a collaborative effort from the government, from the regulators, as well as from banks and from vendors and everyone. And also not just Malaysia, but also through the recent development on the collaborative effort in terms of energy transition, you can see that how powerful it is if ASEAN come together. And I think if we can leverage on these collaborations, a lot of things can happen. So I will still go for energy transition, but responsible and inclusive energy transition through collaboration.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Atim?
Right. Seeing that our mandate is forest, of course, we cannot say one is more important than the other, but from the ambit of forest, I can say that it's very important that we look at forest in totality. As I've shared in my earlier slides, we have a shortage of funding that is required. There's a huge amount for our forests. And our forests not only sequester carbon, it's also a source of adaptation. It's also a source of regulating your climate, regulating your temperatures. And this actually impacts food security as well. So you are looking at, in protecting the forest, you're not just talking about valuing it as living assets, but also looking at it from a resilience perspective and overall economic development as well at the end of the day. So that is my response, short and sweet.
Yeah, thank you very much. All I heard was actually two words, energy and then forests. So these are our core competencies. These are the challenges that we have. And with the challenges that lies the opportunity. I have questions lined up for another 1 hour, but gentlemen, ladies, we have to basically get this brilliant panel to a close. But these esteemed speakers will actually be around. Please feel free to use your time to basically mingle with them, share the knowledge. And so together, we drive that one thing, impact. That's something that we can do if you all get together. So collaboration. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Big round of applause for our esteemed panel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supun. And as a gesture of appreciation for the presentation, may I please invite Mr. Supun, accompanied by Mr. Dirk, to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Maureen Joseph, Mr. Vardhan Sharma, Mr. Francois Bligno, Ms. Leo Pui Yong, and Encik Muhammad Omar Hatim. Thank you.